Hello everyone. In the last video, we have discussed some of the salient features of the Constitution of India, and in this class, we are continuing the same thing. As such, the Parliament lengthiest and the written Constitution, as we have discussed, that the Indian Constitution is the lengthiest or the written Constitution. How many articles are given over here, as well as how many articles are at present in our Constitution. So we all have discussed all these things in the last video and drawn from the various sources. There this point also we have discussed in the last video as Indian Constitution, or some of the parts of the Indian Constitution we people have borrowed from the other constitutions. So as such, Indian Constitution, sometimes known as a borrowed constitution, but we have settled the things according to the necessity of our own constitution. As well as we have discussed the federal system with the unitary bias also, means in India there is a federal system as well as the unitary concept also. As such, we can say that Indian constitution is known as a quasi federal constitution, because it has the both the features as like federal system or the unitary system. So in that sense, we can say that Indian constitution is federal as well as the unitary also, and overall we can say that it is the quasi federal. And now it's the fourth point which we people have to discuss in this video: parliamentary form of the government. As such, the Constitution of India has opted the British parliamentary system of the government, and you know that most of the things we have taken from the British Constitution, just like the rule of law also we have taken from the Britain. Or as such, this concept is very easy, means this kind of the process is very easy to applicable them in our constitution. We have taken the parliamentary form of the government from Britain. The parliament system is also known as the Westminster model, or as such, the this system has contains the various kinds of the features, as like in the parliamentary form of the government we find out that there is the presence of the nominal or the real executive. Means in that sense, we can say that the president is the nominal executive and the prime minister is the real executive. Means the president is a nominal executive, and the prime minister is the real executive. Means each and every work of the nation is done by each and every decision is mostly taken by the prime minister, and the head of the state is generally known as nominal head. And here in the parliamentary form of the government we find out more things, just like the majority party rule also. Means the party who wants more and more votes than means who the party who is in majority will run the government. It means that in our country the first past the post system has been adopted over here, and the majority party always ruled over there. And there is the collective responsibility of executive to the legislature also, and the memberships of the ministers in the legislature also, and there is the leadership of the prime minister or the chief minister, as well as the dissolution of the lower house of the Lok Sabha or the assembly. So as such, in the parliamentary form of the government, overall we can say that in the parliament there are the two houses. One house whom we can say that one house is the upper house and the another one is the lower house. So in that sense, we people can divide the parliament into the two parts or the two houses, just like Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha is undissoluble house, and on the another hand the members of the Lok Sabha generally elected after the 5 years. So as such, this kind of the process is find out in our country in the parliamentary form of the government, or overall the Lok Sabha is known as a popular house in our country. And there is one more feature, just like the rigidity and the flexibility. So as such, constitution always classified into the rigid and the flexible aspects. Means rigid constitution is one that requires a special procedure for amendments. For example, the American constitution. It means that if we people will take example of the American constitution, then it will takes a special procedure to make the changes over there, to make some kind of the provisions over there, or as such that constitution is known as a rigid constitution. But a flexible constitution, in order on the another hand, is one that can be amended in the same manner as the ordinary laws are made. For example of the British constitution. So as such, the rigid or the flexible constitutions features are generally find out relating to the constitution of India, or relating to the amendments to the constitution. But what we people can say about the Indian constitution, means Indian constitution is flexible as well as the rigid constitution. Means how we can say that in our constitution we find out that so many amendments has been done till now, and these kind of the amendments are very means can be done with a means some of the amendments can be done with a very simple process, and some of the amendments can be done with a means hard process. So in that sense, basically we can say that the changes or to make provision or to do the amendment in the constitution is very difficult, but it is not so difficult that it can't be done. So in that sense, in our constitution there is the rigidity as well as the flexibility. It means that it is not so hard that we can't make any amendment, but on the other hand, it is not so flexible that each and every day we people can make changes over there. So as such, Indian constitution has the features of the both the constitution as like America or as like Britain, means it is flexible as well as rigid. Later on we find out that in the sixth point, the supremacy of the judiciary. Judiciary is generally necessary for each and every nation, or as such Indian constitution establishes a judicial system that is integrated as well as independent. As such, while we are taking example of Indian judiciary, then it is independent judiciary, and it's means it's the members or who were appointed over there, then they do their job as independently, and they are not under means they are not elected, and they always do their work without any kind of the burden, and like all means without any kind of the pressure, means as such they are totally free from the any kind means any the political pressure. The Supreme Court stands at the top of the integral judicial system in our country. So as such, this one has always taken the decisions in the favor of the peoples. It protects the rights of the peoples, as well as we can say that this the judiciary in our country is totally independent. It takes the decision in favor of the peoples. It protects the rights of each and every one in our country. And the next one is directive principles. Directive principles of the state policy, as they are the state policy is a novel features of the Indian constitution. They are enumerated in the part 4th of the Indian constitution, and they are classified into the three broad categories, just like socialistic, Gandhian, and the liberal intellectual. So as such, the directive principles means promoting the idea of social and the economic economic democracy. They seek the establish a welfare state in India. As such, the directive principles are mentioned in the part 4th of the Indian Constitution, and they are generally the directions to the states while the state is making any of the policies, then they have to keep them in mind. So as such, we can say that they are not justiciable, but they are the directions to the state. Or as such, I would like to give an example over here that the Panchayati Raj system were given in the category of directive principles, but according to the 73rd Amendment Act, which came into existence in 1992, then after that the the Panchayati Raj system has got a means constitutional status, and after that each and everything is going on very smoothly, and the elections of the panchayats always take place in a particular manner, like after every 5 years. So as such, directive principles are the directions to the states, they are ideals to the states, and they are generally classified into the 3 categories. Next one is the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are the most important part of our constitution, and they are given in the part 3rd of the Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights are right to all the citizens. It means that they are provided to each and everyone. Means the person who is the citizen of India can enjoy all these rights without any kind of the discrimination. If I would like to categorize all these rights into the 6 parts, just like right to equality, which is given in the article 14 to 18, right to freedom, which one is given in 19 to 22, and article right against exploitation given in article 23 to 24, right to freedom of religion, which one is given in 25 to 28, cultural and educational rights is given in 29 to 30, and article 2 constitutional remedies is given in article 32. So here the one most important thing is that basically while we generally talk about the fundamental rights, then they are given in the part 3rd of the Constitution of India. But here one of the most important thing relating to that one is that originally means while the Constitution of India were made, then at that particular time we find out that there were the 7 fundamental rights, but right now there are 6 fundamental rights. You know that basically the right to property was comes under the category of fundamental rights, but that one was eliminated from the list of fundamental rights according to the 44th Amendment Act, and that one is made a legal right in the article 300A of the Indian Constitution. So as such, the fundamental rights are the most important right which are generally provided and which stops discrimination with the peoples in our country, and as such we find out that they provide some special provisions to the peoples, means to some of the peoples who are from the weaker section or who comes under the backward categories, as well as to the women's also. And these rights also provide some of the educational rights to the children, as such to improve the education system of our country. Next one is the universal adult franchise. The Indian Constitution has adopted the universal adult franchise as a basis of the elections to the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly. Every citizen who is not less than 18 years of the age has a right to vote. In that sense, we can say that without any kind of the discrimination, caste, race, religion, sex, literacy, wealth or so on, means each and everyone cast their vote without any kind of the discrimination. And the voting age was reduced to 18 years from 21 years in 1989 by the 61 Constitutional Amendment Act of 1988. So as such, universal adult franchise generally give us the feeling that we people are the citizen of India, while we people generally cast our vote, then we feel that means we are participating in the government also. So this one is the most important feature of the Constitution of India. And later on, there is one more feature of Indian Constitution, just like emergency provisions. Emergency provisions are also given to our constitution, and we have borrowed this kind of the provision from the another nations. And the Indian constitution contains as such emergency provisions to enables the president to meet any statutory situations, as means as such, that if there is some different kind of the situation happen to our country, so in that sense basically this one is giving the emergency provisions to the president of India. So as such, in our constitution the emergency provision are given to the president of India. So as such, this one is divided into the three parts: national emergency on the ground of war, external affairs, and armed rebellions. This one is given in the article 352. And the state emergency, this one is given in the article 365, and the financial emergency is given in the article 360. So overall we can say that the emergency provisions are given to a very few means we find out this kind of the provisions to the means very few nations, but this kind of the process is given to our country, to the president of our country. So this one is also given in the to our constitution. But there is one of the most important thing relating to the emergency provision, that as such, when the national emergency is applicable over here in our country, so we find out that the fundamental rights, some of means except some of the fundamental rights all got suspended, but when it got over, then they comes automatically in existence. Next one is single citizenship provision. Single citizenship as such through the Indian constitution is a federal constitution, and it has the dual polity. It means that the power is divided between the center and state. It provides for the single citizenship, and that is only known as the Indian citizenship. It means that overall we see that India is a quasi-federal nation, and the powers is generally divided between the center or the states. So as such, but overall we can say that there are some of the unitary features also which generally unite the nations during means at some of the particular periods, just like the emergency time period. But as such, we can say that Indian constitution follow the single citizenship process. But if we people take example of USA, then in that sense we find out that center or the states enjoys the separate kind of the citizenship. So overall we can say that Indian constitution follows the single citizenship concept. And Indian constitution is India is a secular state also. What we people can say in this characteristic, the constitution of India stands for a secular state. Hence it does not uphold any kind of the particular religion at the official religion of the Indian state. So in that sense basically it respects the each and every religion of everyone, and on the another hand in the preamble secures to all the citizens of India the liberty of belief, faith and worship. As such, in our country we people cannot make any kind of the discrimination on the basis of the religion, and on the another hand no one can be forced to convert their religion as convert their religion also. In that sense basically the constitution provides them a proper protection to those kind of the rights. So overall we can say that all these features of the constitution are generally the foundation of the Indian constitution. Foundation as such, we can say that each and everyone can enjoy all these kind of the means the rights, just like the fundamental rights, and here we find out the supremacy of the judiciary. So in that sense, all these kind of the rights are generally protected by the Supreme Court or the High Court, and no one can violate them. So overall the Indian constitution provides the various kinds of the characteristics. On the behalf of that one, we find out that our constitution is a unique constitution and the elaborate one also. All right, thank you all of you.